My name is Joel Roberts Poinsett. I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, but my wife's family had land and a farm in the Greenville area, and I loved coming up here. Now, you may not have heard my name, except it is attached to many hotels, clubs, businesses, textile mill, roads, avenues, and even a bridge. So I am one of the visionaries that saw a need to connect coastal South Carolina with the mountains of North Carolina through Pace's Gap as it continued on to the Ohio River.
Welcome, welcome. My name is Captain Charles W. Pearson of the 63rd Regiment, Company H of the Confederate Army. And this is Chief Engineer Thaddeus Coleman. The war is over. 12 years have passed. It's 1877. 1877. If I would have known I would have survived the war and lived this long, I'd have taken better care of myself.
I was the chief civil engineer for the Western North Carolina Railroad, building the railroad from Salisbury to Asheville. But to do that, to get up the Blue Ridge Escarpment, I had to build all those loops and 7 tunnels up between Old Fort and Ridgecrest. But we got our way up there. Now, meanwhile, this track had already begun once we finished that. So it had been completed from Spartanburg to the old blockhouse fort in Tryon. And our job now was to figure out how to get up from there, from Tryon to here. Now, you nice folks, have y'all ever stood at the bottom of the Blue Ridge Escarpment and just looked up? I mean, it's like a solid wall of trees and rocks. I mean, we had to figure out how to get a train up that mountain. Our work begins, but we had another problem. We didn't have enough men to do the work. So the North Carolina State Legislature ratified a bill to allow convicts from the prison in Raleigh to come to the mountains and build the tracks here, be the labor force for us. That's a whole nother story.
My name is Pitt Ballou, and this is my brakeman, Jim Halliburton. I was an engineer on engine 440 for the Southern Railroad back in 1903 when this accident happened. Now, we were supposed to be going down the grade at about 8 miles an hour, but we were flying down that track at 60 miles an hour.
We were a runaway train right after we left the Saluda station. The brakes failed. I tried to stop it. I was running on top of that train like a madman, trying to work the brakes, all the time trying to reset them. And while we were careening down the railroad out of control. Do you know how many sets of brakes are on that train?
No, how many?
A set for each car. We were pulling 13 coal cars, 2 merchandise cars, a car full of eggs, and a caboose. I had the most dangerous job on this train, I'm sure you know, even you. We had just checked the brakes when we stopped at lunch in Saluda, and we thought everything was fine.
Well, whatever. We were out of control as soon as we headed down the grade from Saluda. I could tell that we were going so fast there was no way we wouldn't derail. So I gave the order for the crew to jump off.
And yes, we heard that order, and we did. The train continued to speed down the grade. Those of us who weren't addled by the whole operation heard a loud explosion. The birds flew and the animals ran, and we thought, what in the world's coming next? Sure enough, the engine went off the side of the railroad, and the coal cars went out and smashed up into the woods. It was a terrible mess. Several crew members were hurt pretty badly too. Broken bones, scrapes, and you, Pitt, you had the worst of it.
Well, yep, I was just determined to try to stop that train. I tried every trick in the book. I reversed the engine, I applied sand, I did everything I could think of, but it was no use. Those 17 cars behind us were just pushing us at an impossible speed. There was nothing for me to do but jump, so jump I did. I was in sad shape, it broke my back. Doctors didn't think I'd ever walk again. I lay there in that hospital just thinking and thinking about that accident. I figured there must be some way to keep that kind of accident from happening again. So I was thinking and thinking. We didn't have no TV back in them days, so we did a whole lot more thinking. Finally, it occurred to me that if gravity got us into this mess, maybe gravity could get us out. When you're going down a hill fast and then you come to another hill, it slows you down. That gave me the idea of a runoff track. We called it the safety runoff track. Here.
Well, hello folks, welcome. It is 1877 and we are two convicts that helped to build this rail. This is Otis and my name is Fletch. Yes.
How'd I get shackled to you?
Well, let me tell you, it's a bit of a nightmare being shackled to you. But I have to say that it's better than being back in prison just hitting a rock pile with a sledgehammer. You know, at least we're outside. Now I know the weather's nice right now, but it's going to be turning chilly. You know, we got snow coming and that wind starts howling, and it's a tough winter here and as we build this railroad between Tryon and up here at Pace's Gap.
Yeah, but at least we'll get to sleep in the boxcars.
But what if I don't want to sleep in the boxcar?
Listen, you are chained and shackled to me, and where I go, you go. And if I gotta, go, you go too.
Yeah, don't remind me. Being shackled to you, it is a nightmare. But you know, Otis, what I don't understand is some of these convicts I see, they're here, most of them, first of all, are black. And they're here for the pettiest little reason. I heard one of them's here in a hard time. All he did was steal a couple of apples. And then maybe a carrot or two out of a garden. Get a 1 year hard labor. And there's a 14-year-old who's here that stole a newspaper, 2-cent newspaper, and he's here doing hard time. That just ain't right.
No, you're right, it ain't right. But at least we took those 4 guys who fell down the side of the mountain. They were all chained together and they fell down 100 feet, and all they did was dig a hole and bury them.
Well, hello all. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that this depot has been moved. I used to, in 1920, look out these windows and I could see the trains coming and going, but not now. Now I look out the window and I see a visitor center. What's that about?
I know. I was a waiter on the Carolina Special, and those beautiful steam trains that came up the grave. I loved that job, serving wonderful food like terrapin and trout to those passengers. In my day, trains brought thousands of passengers through Saluda every year.
I know. I sold tickets out of those 2 windows. People going to Columbia, Charleston, Asheville, and Cincinnati, and all kinds of places in between. Ain't that exciting?
That is exciting. Exciting. Look at this china. This is some of the actual service used on the Carolina Special. Look at these plates. Some of them were in use in 1920, more than a century ago, and they just look brand new.
And let me tell you about this building. Now, this building was built right here. Well, not right here, but about a quarter mile up the tracks in 1903. Now, that's 120 years ago. And just look at it. It is still beautiful to this very day. Now, it was built mostly out of local white pine. And look at this desk. This was my very desk when I worked here. Now, that's remarkable.
Yes, it is. And those beautiful steam engines that came up the grade with those sleek, immaculate dining cars. Did you know that George Pullman, who had invented the sleeper car, also invented the dining car, which he first called the hotel car? The trouble was, when it was first invented, to get there, the passengers had to jump in between the cars of the train. So then they had to invent the passageway between the cars so it was easier to get to the dining car. In fact, there were a lot of inventions that resulted from train travel.
And the food service certainly improved. Now, before dining service, passengers had to jump off the train and try to get food from the local vendors. And they only had about 20 minutes before they had to get on the train. And the food service was not good. They had things called sinkers, which was basically stale bread. They had very bitter coffee, and they had old dried out ham. Yuck.
But that greatly improved by 1920. We served 3 meals a day. We were stocked and ready for a 7-day cross-country trip. We had dinner, 3 sittings for dinner every night at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Then we would feed the crew, and then we would feed ourselves. We served the freshest meats and fish and vegetables and fruits and bread that we made in the train kitchen. Bottled water was first used on the passenger train, as well as a lot of other things. In fact, the train kitchen is where Bisquick was invented.
It's 1914. It's a very pleasant day, Nurse Carter, unlike the weather down the mountain in Spartanburg, where it's hot and muggy.
We have 14 sick babies and their mothers here at the Saluda Baby Sanatorium and 10 more down at the Spartanburg Baby Hospital. I am so glad that we were able to offer our services to the families who can't pay. Mr. Charles Heron was a wise man to suggest that we do that. A sick baby is a sick baby, and we can't deny them help just because they can't afford to come here.
You're right about that, Nurse Carter. Money is not important. Our mission is to help these children so that they can get well and live long and happy lives. Many of these children have become ill from improper care and drinking spoiled milk. It's common in the hot summer. We give them the best care possible. Our pediatric practice is based on simple, common sense ideas: healthy climate, fresh food, breast milk, and cleanliness.
Well, there is no healthier climate than here in Saluda, where the air is cool and clean.
Howdy, folks. The year is now 1925, and my name is Boxcar Billy, and this here is Frisco Jack. We're hobos, and we are, where are we, Jack? We travel around so much I get confused.
Well, their depot says Saluda, and I see a fine railroad museum in this place someday. Hey, I like this town, Billy. What you say we get a couple of days working here, and then we'll head on up to Asheville.
You know that town where we stopped yesterday? What was it? Oh, yes, Landro. When I jumped off the train, there was a bull standing right there. He called me a bum and a tramp. And I told him we was hobos, and we are proud of it. Hobos, they travel to find work, like kind of itinerates. And tramps travel to avoid work at all costs. And bums, they is the worst.
But this time of year in Saluda is gorgeous. The temperatures are great. The trees are just beautiful. I really enjoy Saluda in the fall, but my cousin Orville, he says we got to go back to the coast and meet up with Wilbur. Something about visiting Kitty Hawk. Now, I don't know who she is, but I'm thinking I need to go along with them to make sure they stay out of trouble. We always stay at the Osceola Inn. You know Zelda Fitzgerald, the wife of that writer F. Scott Fitzgerald? Well, she stays there often. There are inns and hotels being built all over Saluda. There is one that will be a real beauty when it's finished. It's called the Charlton Leland Inn. It still stands in 2023, and it's called the Saluda Inn. My friends Jay and Joel have done a beautiful job renovating that place. They had a big grand opening. Sure ain't that nice?
Yeah. Oh, Saluda is certainly nice and so friendly for visitors. There are so many inns and boarding houses and hotels. It's really prepared for all these people who come on the train. Next time we come, I want to stay at Crystal Springs. I'm told they have running water.
Zelda, why are we in this little town? Let's go to Paris or New York or back to the French Riviera. I just love those busy, bustling party places. That's where we should be.
Honey, if you don't start writing, the only place you're gonna be is up there in your mama's cold, cold bedroom in Minnesota.
Well, those doctor's appointments take money. And those electroshock treatments, they are not cheap.
And that beer isn't all free either, is it? This little town is so quiet and peaceful. You know, it's called Saluda, and the reason it's called Saluda is because the word means Corn River, and that is named by the Cherokee Indians. Did you know that they were here in the 1700s?
I did not, but thank you for the history lesson. I thought we were heading to Asheville.
There again, are you working on a book? That's the important thing. We need more money.
Well, as a matter of fact, I have been working on a collection of ideas, and I have a new book in mind called The Great Gatsby. I think it's going to be a hit, And I'm also working on some things for the Saturday Evening Post.
Well, there's a wagon I see coming up. So I'll catch it and go on to the inn, Osceola Inn, and you go on to Asheville, and I'll meet you sooner or later.
Well, I'll take the train to the Grove Park, and you send me a wire when you're ready, and I'll pick you up at the depot at the Biltmore Village. That's the one. Meet you
That's
there.
the one. Okay. Well, meanwhile, I'll try to be peaceful and serene in Saluda.
I'm Mark. This is The Country Life with Columbus Mark. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll subscribe, share, like, comment, and come back often. Welcome to my neighborhood, wherever that might be.